So let's talk about some leaked rules profiles for the Brutalis Dreadnought and Primaris Desolators. What will these shiny new Space Marines be doing in-game? Hello and welcome back to Auspex Tactics, where today I thought I'd do a bit of a reaction video to some rumoured new rules for the new Brutalis Dreadnought and Primaris Desolators, the two new units that are coming out in a Space Marine Battle Force box in the near future. Games Workshop having had enough of holding off releasing more Space Marines, so we're getting a new release wave of those apparently. So far these haven't been officially announced, but according to several credible rumour sources, these two new units are coming in a Space Marine Battle Force type box, sometime at least reasonably early in 2023. Games Workshop themselves have teased the Primaris Desolator squad. It's the silhouetted one that appeared in those New Year reveals, though so far we don't have anything to tease the Brutalis Dreadnought, at least not that I've known. Just over a month ago now, there was a basic rules leak that came from Discord, both posted over there and sent to me directly, reportedly from the people who leaked the Eldari Advent Calendar type leaks the previous year. This one had a few interesting things, including some points values, basic weapon profiles, and a rough idea of the units. Though as a text leak there were a few things that were a little bit garbled, it wasn't particularly clear exactly how the units were set up with the bits of war gear. The latest leak for these guys has been around for about a week or so now. I've seen these new profiles shared in a fair few different places around the internet, though as best I can tell, the original sources for it were Chapter Master Valrag and Tactical Tortoise's YouTube channels. I'm not sure whether or not it was sent to them directly, or they're finding it from somewhere else that I'm not able to track down. Their two versions seem to differ a bit, plus they seem to be missing a few details that came out in the original leak, so I thought we'd put them all together and do a bit of reaction video to the summary of the rules as I understand them. Obviously this is very much a reaction video. If they are indeed the original sources, then of course full credit to them. I'll leave both of their videos linked down in the video description, fully recommend checking them out. Overall the profiles do look very plausible with what I expect the rules to look like, and they basically look like they're slightly more expanded and fleshed out versions of the original leak, which basically had these sort of stats already. The new information actually appears to be fairly limited, confirmation on the stat lines, and a little bit about how the war gear is actually set up, at least if these playtest leaks are to be believed. Let's jump into the actual rules though, and first up we have the Primaris Desolators. I've seen them called both Desolators or the Desolation squad in various bits. Desolators maybe seem like they'd be a bit more on brand for Primaris, but who knows. These guys are a heavy support choice, a unit of 5 to 10 models, apparently costed at 35 points per model as per the original leak, and core Primaris infantry with an intercessor type stat line. As per standard intercessors, they move 6 inches, hit on 3s, strength and toughness 4, 2 wounds and 2 attacks, and a 3+ save. The squad gets a sergeant who's apparently armed with a signum the same way as the Devastators, so I guess that would mean that one other model in the squad gets +1 to hit, unless they've got something fancier going on, like an entire squad +1 to hit bonus, or something Primaris like that. Now the original leak did have me a little bit confused as to how exactly their complicated missile launchers are set up, but it sounds like at least each Marine gets a primary and a secondary weapon. The primary weapon is a great big standard missile launcher, and the secondary weapon fires out of line of sight. The primary weapon seems to be a choice between Super Crack and Super Frag missiles, a profile that we have heard of before in the Hammerfall drop bunker thing. Though weirdly it does sound like the profiles are going to be a different profile to the Hammerfall missiles. I guess that is really quite a big missile launcher and might be a bit out of place on these models. Supposedly the Super Crack missiles would be a 48-inch heavy one, strength 8, AP -2 and damage D3+3, and the Super Frag ones would be 48 inches, D3+3 shots, strength 4, AP -1, damage 1 and blast. There did seem to be a bit of discrepancy on a few of the profiles, particularly the Super Crack one, whether it had AP -1 or AP2, or damage D3+3 or damage D6, and both of those will be different to the Hammerfall Super Crack missile. That one's strength 10 and damage D6. Not 100% sure how it'll shake out to be, but it sounds like it's basically going to be an upgraded version of the missile launcher, and I strongly suspect that like the missile launcher, you'd be able to choose the mode of fire each round, as opposed to having to commit to one all game long. Then the models have a secondary weapon choice, a choice of 2. These both apparently ignore line of sight, and the choice is either a Castellan launcher or a Vengeance launcher, the Vengeance launcher being massively more powerful than the Castellan one. The Castellan gets you D3 shots at strength 4, AP 0 and damage 1 at a 36-inch range. The Vengeance launcher gives you D6 shots at strength 6, AP 1 and damage 2. Though it is kind of weird that that would have basically about the same sort of firepower as a Whirlwind, just on one infantry model. Obviously these profiles are really not balanced. The recent leaks didn't seem to be very specific as to who exactly got what, but I suspect that as per the original leak, the Vengeance missile launcher might well be on the Sergeant, so you just get one of those powerful profiles per unit, and then the rest of his hangers-on just chip in with the Castellan launchers, maybe kill an infantry model or two while he's raining down big death on the enemy. To be honest, I wouldn't be entirely surprised if he had to sacrifice his main missile launcher if he was taking the Vengeance launcher. It just seems like that's a really powerful weapon, and it might just seem a little bit odd to have him plugging away with that as well as the big missile. Overall, it looks interesting enough. Not sure they'd really be outshooting things like standard Space Marine Devastators if they really are still 35 points. Now the Devastators got a whole bunch of free gear, I feel like they probably have the edge. Though it is a bit of an interesting value proposition with a whole bunch of the firepower potentially being concentrated in the Sergeant with that Vengeance launcher. Games Workshop doesn't seem to have a very good track record of keeping their pure gunline units particularly effective. I have a feeling that if this profile and points cost are right, these might be kind of niche. Probably not unusable, but probably not anything meta-breaking at the moment. Moving on, the other big unit of course is the Brutalis Dreadnought. This thing does sound rather fun to be honest, a variant Redemptor chassis that sounds like it's somewhere between an Ironclad Dreadnought or Blood Angel's Furioso Dreadnought. Maybe perhaps the latter a bit more of the two, seeing as it's a bit faster than its Redemptor counterpart, and goes charging in with a pair of fists or talons. According to the previous leak, this thing would be power level 10, the same as the Redemptor, which would put it in around about the same sort of points bracket. Power level 10 would roughly translate to 200 points, though if like the Redemptor they reduce the points from that a bit, it could be the same 185 potentially. The rumoured stat line seems to fit in pretty well with the previous leaks, a 10-inch move and hitting on 3s, strength and toughness 7, 13 wounds, 5 attacks, leadership 8, and a 3+ armour. Not really too different from the standard Redemptor. It's got the 10-inch movement, so it's a bit faster, the same move as the Invictor, plus it's got 5 attacks, which probably represents it having 2 combat weapons. Despite the leaks, it still sounds like the weapons are just a tiny bit unclear as to the exact setup of the things. Apparently it's got a twin Icarus Iron Hail Heavy Stubber, which I guess would be a top gun, seeing as they're usually swivel mounted. That should be 8 shots at strength 4, AP-1 and damage 1. And then it also gets either a pair of heavy bolters or a pair of multi-melters, which seems like they'd be most likely to go where that Frag Storm Grenade Launcher or Storm Bolter goes at the front of the Dreadnought. Then for the melee weapons that you have the option between Brutalis Fists and Brutalis Talons. The Fists basically get the same profile as the Redemptor, so kind of similar but with more attacks I guess. Instead of having either the Heavy Flamer or the Gatling Cannon built in with the Fist though, apparently they come with twin auto bolt rifles. I wasn't 100% clear from the wording whether or not it's just one bolt rifle per fist or whether it's 2 per fist, which would allow you to spam out a fair amount of anti-infantry shots. The pair of those can be swapped out for a pair of Brutalis Talons, probably something similar to the Dreadnought type lightning claws of the Blood Angel's Furioso. And if these profiles are to be believed, it looks like it would just be a flatly superior melee weapon, but I guess losing the anti-infantry shots. It does make me doubt slightly whether or not these profiles are 100% accurate. I feel like Games Workshop usually when they do fists versus talons usually tend to have a bit of trade-off between the two. For example, the Furioso Talons having a little bit less strength and a bit less AP, but gaining reroll wound rolls. In any case, if the profile is accurate though, the strike will be strength times 2, so again strength 14, AP-4 and damage D3 plus 3. That gets to reroll wound rolls, though you'd be wounding a bunch of things on 2s. And then it also comes with a sweep mode, so strength user AP-3 and damage 1, but double the attacks. Really quite nice horde clearing that one I guess. With Shock Assault that would have you up to 12 attacks per Dreadnought, which isn't too bad. They can get a bit bogged down by chaff troops at the moment. If those profiles are correct, then they look pretty badly balanced to be honest. I feel like you never really want to take the Brutalis Fists over the Talons just because of that phenomenal melee buff. It just seems a bit unlikely to make them both flatly better at killing heavies and light things, even if you do trade out a few bolt rifle shots. I just kind of wonder whether the strike profile might be something like either strength plus 2 or have only damage 3 or something. But if not, it will be the Talons for me every time. If you wanted the Fist, you may as well just take a regular Redemptor with a massive gun. Overall, certainly looks interesting enough though. By this profile, definitely a lot more threatening than the Redemptor in melee, though the Redemptor tends to be a bit better at the whole ranged game. I feel like on paper these would probably be powerful enough to run with Space Marines, though I feel like in the Arcs of Omen world there's a whole load of armies that can just destroy vehicles ridiculously easily, Space Marines themselves being one of them with the amount of free melter that they get. So anyway, let me know what you think of the leaked profiles. Would you be tempted to run these units if these do turn out to be accurate? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments. If you enjoyed the video then feel free to subscribe to Auspex Tactics. I'll certainly try and keep up with the Games Workshop news and rumours. And as mentioned, I'll link the other couple of videos down in the video description. Feel free to check out Mr. Tactical Tortoises or Mr. Valrak's videos. Finally, if you have been enjoying all the videos on the channel, I would just like to mention that Auspex Tactics does have a Patreon page as well, and you can find that links down in the video description if you're interested. Channel patrons do get a fair few advantages, seeing certain videos early, regular votes to see what sort of things come next on the channel, and automatic entry into the regular prize giveaways with a chance to win some really big model kits each month. If any of that sounds good to you, or you'd just like to help support, the link is down in the video description. In any case, an absolutely enormous thank you for listening, and I'll hope to see you guys next time.